Okay. My name is Rak Razam, and a little bit about me. Well, that's a hard one to start with. I guess I've been involved with psychedelic culture for most of my adult life, actually, but as a media maker and a media professional, trying to capture some of the essence of the culture on the outside as it evolves, and also the interior spiritual journey, as well as the consciousness sort of journey, depending on what linguistic label you give it. I've been doing that for the last 7 years. I first went down to Peru in 2006 as a gonzo journalist, and for a magazine article that turned into a book called Aya, the Shamanic Odyssey. And that's just been turned into a film called Aya Awakenings, which is all about ayahuasca culture and what I call the global shamanic resurgence.
Cool. Well, you actually had your premiere, I believe it was here, right? Was it a premiere or was it just a showing?
Yeah, well, it was like a test screening premiere, in San Francisco on April 17, the Clay Theatre, which was a really great turnout. And it's really, there's something about going out to the theatre which is like a ritual, because you're outside your normal comfort zone, you're with the community, but you're in the dark of the womb of the cinema. And so we had the film on the big screen with the beautiful hypnotic visuals by director and video editor Timothy Parrish, and the soundscapes by Lulu Medill, the sound engineer, with the icaros of the indigenous curanderos and the soundscapes of the jungle. And it really, the movie has this critical mass of sensory modalities within it, like the narration is directly from the book, which was directly from the experience at the time, so there's a direct transmission of energy, taking you on the emotional journey and giving context to that, while the visuals take you inside as well as outside on the journey down to Peru and the lodges and drinking with the shamans in the jungle. About a third of the film is the interior visionary sequences, so we take you on the visionary shamanic journey.
Right on. So what came first, your interest in shamanism or psychedelics?
I think actually psychedelics came first, only because that was the more accessible cultural heritage, really. I was a big fan of the 60s. I was a big fan of Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters. I first read The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test when I was about 19, and it just blew my mind, I really resonated with that, and I guess with the Tom Wolfe's reporting style and that frenetic frisson of language to describe this energetic, the whole beatnikian sort of energy behind the 60s and late 50s and 60s, but the Acid Test with their superhero names and almost like avatars and larger than lifeness, but the fact that there was some momentum and some side, they called it, the group mind, or this collective consciousness that was behind the acid experience. So there was something larger they were plugging into in the times themselves, which were changing, and it revolutionized the society and became tribal. At the heart of the prankster ethos was the tribal group mind. And so that sense of community and the sense of psychedelic community really affected me, and I think it's been part of my journey ever since.
So what do you think society has lost with the current scheduled classifications of psychedelics?
Look, I feel to a large degree Western culture, and as the globalization rolls out the world, it's become this battery farm of consciousness, where it's not about the specific chemicals which are meant to be illegal or the specific plants which are meant to be illegal. It's about us. And it's about, are we free human beings? Is this a democracy? Is this a free planet, or is a planet Orwell? Is it 1984 come full circle? Because if you take something like dimethyltryptamine, which occurs endogenously, not just in our brains, but it's threaded all throughout nature, in all basically the sentient species, whether that's the plants, the insects, the mammals, the animals. It's been reclassified as a neurotransmitter, and we're talking about nature. Nature makes these substances, whether that's in the garden or in the lab. Everything is ultimately natural if you take a step back and look at the big picture. And evolution works in these ways. I feel like, there's some theories from Terence McKenna and before him Bear Owsley, one of the 60s acid chemists, had this idea that the planet is secreting these exopheromones. The planet is like these hormones which are there to activate the species at different levels of the maturation as they evolve. And so here we are, locked down consciousness, like martial law of the soul, where we're trying to say, you can't evolve. You can't take these things. And it's like the planet has supplied these things. Specifically, we have the neurochemical locks and keys in our brains. We're specifically meant to be in partnership with the earth. And Mother Earth is giving us these substances to help in our evolutionary journey. And so it's not just very limited and very narrow bandwidth consciousness of our leaders to be saying this. The only reason our leaders are saying this is to control and homogenize the populace and keep them suppressed. So there's the law of man and there's the law of God. And if you look at the fundamental origins of international law under the corporate trading system from the British East India Company back in the days of empire, it was all founded under God. It was founded that God was above the law, and this is nature. This is us reclaiming our divinity. This is what entheogens are all about. If we're doing it with respect, with integrity, we need to come out of the shadows, like at places like MAPS, but to our own families, to our own communities. We need to do it, with integrity, but we need to be honest that these things are part of our spirituality.
Right on. So what psychedelic would you like to see legalized the most, and why?
I'd like to see the brain legalized in all its forms, and to say that this terrain, this terra incognita of consciousness, this inner landscape that we now have the abilities, not just through the external technology like the EEG and the MRI scans, but with the shamanic technologies like, ayahuasca and psilocybin, the vegetal technologies of the planet, that this exploration itself is not just not illegal, it is necessary for us to find the context of what we're really embedded in this planetary organism and in this cosmic organism. I think we're coming to the times when we're finding what our place in the web of life is, and it's not just legal, it's necessary.
Cool. Do you have any explanations of why ayahuasca is driven by sound?
Well, it's not just ayahuasca that's driven by sound, everything is driven by sound. And a lot of my ayahuasca journeys and even some smokable DMT journeys, I've realized that everything is vibration. Everything is this morphing, undulating sea of vibration. And so sound is the key. And many of the mythologies and root religions of the world, indigenous cultures, they understand that sound is magic, vibration is magic. So you will have the tetragrammatron of the Greeks, of the divine names that you can or cannot say. And if you invoke the right sound, you can tap into the greater vibrational source, and you can draw down that power. And so sound and language is only the tip of the iceberg of the power of real sound. So when you go into these visionary realms, these shamanic realms, when you see things, you're seeing vibration. But you can turn that, with technology now, we can convert sound to light. We can do all these things with different data streams. They can convert cosmic rays and gamma rays. The full spectra of energy coming in can be converted into data, which can be ported into sound. We're getting the technological understanding that everything is vibration. And so ayahuasca, the Icaros, the magic songs, they drive the ceremony, and it's about, they can bring on different modalities within the ceremony, make you purge, make you feel better, bring on the visions. But deeper than that, it's not just on ceremony. Ayahuasca sensitizes you to the subtle vibrations, but the power of sound itself is everywhere, and it's the root of magic. If you go back to the whole grimoire and the Latin terms, it's grammar or spell. To say to spell, you put a spell on someone, it's language. We're encapsulating, in the film Ira Awakenings, there's a very intense 5-MeO DMT sequence, and I come back and all I can say in essence about it is it's it, but inside the source superhadron collider of consciousness that merges into you become it reveals itself as vibration, and it's sound. You navigate, you surf the brainwaves of God in the deep 5-MeO white light tunnel experience by using sound. And it's an ancient shamanic technique that we're rediscovering.
Right on. Why do you think psychedelic plants are ranked next to much more harmful drugs in classification? Like, what does the government fear? What does the population fear?
Isn't there some quote, they only fear fear itself? They fear consciousness, they fear change. They've got this lockdown paradigm that's been the same for like more or less 2,000 years. Everything evolves on the outside with fashions and technologies, but the social structure itself has migrated from the last 6,000 years from a tribal structure to now we have this battery farm, commodified individual units living in little boxes, and we're all consumers. They have got the paradigm set up the way they want it, to have a hierarchy, to have the eye in the pyramid, to have the great mass of humanity slaving away at the 9 to 5, for the benefit of the people at the top of the pyramid. So they don't want to change. They've got a nice cushy thing. But that pyramid structure, that resource extraction structure of empire and of hierarchy has basically thrown the world into kind of squat, so you're out of balance. You know, the sustainability of the web of life, and the reason I believe the plant entheogens are there and that the spirit of the planet is coming through the vegetal avatars like ayahuasca, is to go to the people en masse. You guys are sick. If you have revealed within you soul and that connection to spirit and to the web of life and how that feels, you don't go like shitting in your own backyard, you know, because you remember. So I think they just fear. It's a fear-based, they're holding on, and life itself is fluid, it's a river, it's always changing and mutating. You can't hold on, you go with the flow and you evolve into the next thing. So holding on is this stagnation of the soul, and that's what culture, Western culture, has done lately, so it needs to move on from that.
Cool. Lastly, what would your advice be for future generations regarding psychedelics?
You know, I'd say remember that the finger that points at the sun is not the sun itself. So the psychedelics and the plant entheogens, and no matter how much I share my experiences with them or other people do, these, and here it maps the bandwidth explanation is the medical paradigm. It's very true. Many of these things can be used as medicines, but they're not just that. That's the tip of the iceberg. So if you go deeper, there's soul catalysts. There's something to the healing that happens on that frequency of the medicine is because these things reveal, they cleanse, and they help reveal our own abilities. So they've done tests with the psilocybin mushrooms with the MRI scans at Johns Hopkins and overseas in England, and they've discovered that what it's actually doing is the Huxley thing about the brain being a reducing valve of consciousness and the filters. So the psilocybin's switching off certain bits of the brain, and it's allowing the brain at large to do what it does naturally. It's not, these substances are tools. They don't do a lot of the things we think they do. We have the ability to do this. So I feel the planet is retraining us to find our own divinity within, in the sense that the human's consciousness itself, the body is like a satellite dish for receiving consciousness. All the species receive a different fragment of the pan-galactic BitTorrent coming in, which comes down and loads as the program of consciousness on the planet, and then terraforms everything. And consciousness builds itself its nest. And at the moment we're building the noosphere in the internet, and it's like we're a dry dock for little baby god forms going out as intelligent universes that we're building them. You know, we're the bridge between what's come before and what's coming next. So remember, as much as the psychedelics and entheogens are wonderful potentiators for revealing what's out there, they're just a stepping stone for us to reclaim our ability to do this. And then what will they do at that stage? Ban us? Because no, it's like by that stage, you know, you am I and I am you, and we are all one. There is no enemy, there is no terrorist and government, there is no good guy, bad guy, cop and criminal. There's only us. We are all one species, we are all one life form. And when we remember that and recognize that and have moved forward into our divinity, into claiming our role in the web of life and evolved into what I call the ultra culture, then we won't need the psychedelics or the entheogens, because they will have taught us how to be what they do. We will receive, like the sunlight coming down, we'll be able to channel and to integrate this experience, and then we'll be the galactic citizens that they're waiting for us to be.
Thank you.
Aloha.